How cold?
Minus 19.
Holy Christ! It's minus 19. Jesus.
Subtropical.
And you're working outside in that today? Mate, I don't envy you that, son. That's not good.
Every day.
What are you doing?
Running downhole tools. Running the cemented liner hanger. So.
Bloody hell, mate. That's what kind of hours of daylight have you got over there now?
What's that?
What's the hours of daylight over there at the moment? I mean, over here it's dark at 30 now in the afternoon.
It's light. It gets light about probably 7 in the morning, 7:30, but it's dark by 5 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So not dissimilar to over here, to be honest, mate. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Supernatural Strength channel one more time. I think this is episode 3 with Matt. One more time we are deep inside the minds of the world's greatest arm wrestlers. And we got the top rolling savage from Canada, Matt Mask, back in the chair. He's out in the middle of nowhere today, working, minus 19, freezing frigging cold. If I was out in minus 19 temperatures, I'd spend most of the day as a woman. That is shrinkingly cold, son. Nobody needs that in their life. So, Matt, I want to start this off by keeping things current. Have you been watching the internet? Have you been watching what's been going on in Dubai with Devon, Larratt and Michael Todd and this new kid, Khalid Jashel? Have you seen that?
No. Oh, I haven't.
You need to get on there and check this kid out, mate. He's a phenom. This is, I'm going to say, the most promising natural talent maybe that I've ever seen in the sport. He looks phenomenal. I mean, in a slow pulling format. So Michael Todd and Devon have both been over there and trained with him. And, you know, there's a myriad of things that people have thrown in there as excuses as to why this has happened. But ultimately, let's keep in mind on one thing. This guy is a new fella, right? He's new to arm wrestling. So at best, he's got minimal arm wrestling experience. So he's a relative amateur stroke novice, right? And he's pulling with Devon and Mike, and in slow starts. So if they don't hit the dude, they just literally build up pressure and try to roll out of his hand. Neither one can roll out of his hand. This is a novice. That is incredible, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that could do that as a novice. I think he's fucking awesome.
We got one guy up here in Canada that's the same fucking way, so.
You know a weirdo like that, do you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a young guy, too. He's only about 22 years old. So.
Jesus, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
Who's that, mate? What's his name?
Stephen Marcoux. Stephen Marcoux. You're going to start seeing more of him around. He'll be hitting some of them TAL events that my buddy's putting on, but yeah, no, he trains with us up here. Same thing, like you slow pull with him and his hand and his wrist just don't move. He can put his arm down, but his hand and wrist don't really bend back, right?
I love a freak, me. I absolutely. This to give you more information on this guy. This fella, you know, almost like it's a millennial dumbbell. So basically, like, you know, like the Thomas Inch dumbbell, really, really thick handled dumbbell. So your hand, can of Coke thicker. Big bloody, I mean, it's probably 3-4 inch diameter dumbbell handle. And I think the guy picked up the 104 kilogram version of that dumbbell. Now that's an incredible feat of strength. And he sort of picked it up off the floor, repped it for 4 or 5 repetitions. Complete weirdo strength. Just abnormally strong individual. And he's raw as hell, you know, when you see him on the table, he's like got a really good adaptive mind for arm wrestling. So his movement, I mean, he's making every mistake in the book, but he would, because he's new. So he's that typical, just finding his feet. But the fact is, he's intuitive enough to actually move. You know what I mean? He'll change his position. He'll go, if he starts to get opened up, he'll move to a press. He's great. He's an absolute phenom. Love to see where he goes.
Why the fuck are they teaching him shit then?
Hey, I would love to get somebody like that, right? Who's that level of natural ability. And just lock him in a friggin' dungeon of arm wrestling for 3 months where you're just drilling technique. position, and see where you could get him. I know it's going to take longer than that because match experience is match experience, but if you could just get that natural ability and just lock him into technique, focusing on getting his position, or if his positions are correct, knows how far that kid can go.
Yeah, he's got to work on his fire and quick reflexes, right?
Well, that's the funny thing. I've not met the guy, so I don't want to get overly excited until if I meet the guy and can feel what he's got. But I love freaks. I love people who've got mega ability. Like in strongman, there's a guy called Iron Baby, and I love him. I'm a massive fan of Baby because he's just. I think he may even be natural. I don't know. You know what I mean? Let's not even go down that road. But to me, when I look at Iron Baby, and you honestly, you couldn't meet a nicer bloke. He is the salt of the earth, Bibby. When we're at the gigs, I spend a lot of time talking to him at breakfast and so on. Really humble, wonderful, down-to-earth dude. And it's just, I always get this, like, a feeling that he was put on earth for a higher purpose of being strong as, you know what I mean? Oh. He's just, his legs, you've never seen anything like it. His legs are as thick as my body. We're talking.
Yeah. And that's fucking thick.
Man, he is. Let me tell you that. I ain't joking. His legs are massive. And he's like, again, he's not technical. People may think that strongman's not technical. Strongman is extremely technical, like anything else. At elite level, there's a lot of technical nuance involved. And this dude hasn't got a lot of it, but he just raw manhandles stuff, and he's just an ace prospect. I love people like that. I'll tell you what. As a starter for 10 on this, right? Just try and explain to people watching the show the difference in arm wrestling that speed and explosivity makes. Because you're probably one of the best top rollers, bar none, in the game. Certainly in the heavyweight division. And you're also lightning quick. So let's say we're in a practice scenario, and you're starting super slow and just apply in the same positions, but applying nice and steady and slow and smooth. How much more effective with like-for-like opponents are you when you accelerate off a start than when you start slow? What sort of, if you had to give a percentage applicable strength when you start slow versus when you start fast, what kind of difference are you seeing?
It's huge, 80%, at least 70 to 80% difference. So, like power, there's many people out there that are just the same amount of power as me. I'm not weak. For years, everybody thought, oh, he's just got to hit. Oh, as soon as you slow him down, it's over. Like, no, I'm still strong when I'm slow, but with that speed, you're able to put your opponent out of a position and get yourself in a more comfortable position where it's advantage you times 10, right? So. And
what excites me about guys like this fella that's just come into it now is that everybody's seen that he's got incredible grip strength in a sort of crushing format. Okay, so if you take, I think he closed the 4 captains of Crush grip pretty comfortably. Which is elite grip strength. Now, he hasn't yet learned that containment gripping strength. You know what I mean? The arm wrestling, just a containing flat finger pressure. But no doubt he's got that. And his hands came massive. He's got a huge hand, big thick fingers, got it all. Everything's there. So you imagine with that containment, if he gets that containment strength with that kind of natural hand and wrist strength that he's got, and you could get him exploding fast off the start, loose and fast, If he can, at the moment, it's in that typical novice rigid thing, like all novice guys are rigid as shit, which can be effective in a slow start, but not so much. In fact, it works against you in a fast start. But if you could get him just nice and relaxed and, oh, shit.
Like, I don't know, because I know when I hit, like on my hits, I'm loaded to the fucking gills.
You are, but you're loaded concealed. If you watch you a lot of the time,
loaded,
you're not.
I'm loaded in myself.
In yourself, but it's not. He's that.
I'll give my opponent load pressure as well, about 60-70% load. But in myself, I'm revved out at about 8,000 RPM, just sitting there vibrating. And then all I do is just picture a car at the starting line, and you're sitting there revving like a son of a bitch, where every muscle and bone in your fiber is tensed up and revved right out. And then as soon as they say go, I just pop the clutch is all I do. And I just release all that energy into my core to get my hit, right?
But if you were pulling a guy like who is stronger than you, or you even think, okay, this guy is stronger than me, and they're matching your load or putting a lot of load onto you, do you never just, I'm assuming that you just conceal that off, drop a tenth of an inch, quarter of an inch,
yeah.
And then boom, so your influx is coming from that concealment, you know what I mean? So you conceal.
Yeah, I just won't give him my 100%. Like, I won't give him my 100%. I've got full permission given to him, but I'm still loaded 110% because for whatever reason, if they are a little quicker than me, at least they're going to be hitting a wall, right?
Interestingly, mate, just walk through a little bit on that. How do you often drill, or do you work in training a lot of your sort of positional starts? So, for example, you'll have various angles or directions that you take on the start. How often do you sort of drill those between sort of center table, A-side hits, so when you're hitting through a guy, and when you're reversing off a guy? Because we see that a lot in the World Arm Wrestling League. A lot of your matches, you seem to be really, really powerful. And some of the questions that have come in from the last show were, can you ask Matt how often he works on counter hitting? So basically hitting off a reversal. Are you consciously doing that, or is it just that sometimes, let's say you're pulling someone like Marcio would be a good example, who's got that blisteringly quick hit as well. Do you find that you're just riding his hit and then using the superior leverage to peel him open?
It depends on who I'm going to be competing against, obviously, because everybody's different. So if for a super match like with WL, you got to train specifically for your opponent that you're going against. So it's about studying your opponent, seeing how he's faced against people with somewhat similar styles against yourself, like yourself, or other people, where they're strong, where they're weak, how they're hitting, if they're loosing, if they're loading, what are they doing, and then from there you can kind of adjust what you need to do, right? So it's more like I'll do it where if I know I need to hit more of a certain angle, or I need a drive, my hit is going to be more of the drive with my elbow coming out to counter his hand, or if I'm just attacking because I feel I'm just that much quicker than him, I'll usually do that anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks leading up to where I'm going to compete against that opponent. And what I'll do is I do it in a room with nobody else there, and I sit at the table by myself, and I visualize everything. I visualize them call my name up. I walk up to the table. I slowly get the hair on the back of my neck standing up. I get the adrenaline going. I visualize the referees. I visualize the crowd in the background screaming, my opponent grabbing his grip. And it's thumbs down, close your hand, don't move. And I picture my head every time, Gah. And I'll go through my motion. I'll usually start off the first couple times. I'll go nice and easy. And I'll just feel for any flaws or any legs or anything in my hit movement that I'm going to be doing throughout that move. And then I'll slowly speed it up. Yeah. And I keep doing it, and then I'll stop sometimes, because sometimes you get a little too careless. You'll leave a little too much with your arm. You leave your arm, like a little too much with your shoulders. You leave your arm behind, or you just drive with your hip, but you're not incorporating your wrist and your hand as much. So then I'll slow it down, and I'll redo it until, for me, it feels 100% crisp and clean, natural. And I just work through that movement, and I repeat it. And I repeat it, and I repeat it, anywhere from 100 to 150 times a day. And I'll sit there for half an hour to an hour every day by myself with nobody else there, and I just go through it, and I'm creating muscle memory. So when it comes time to get to the table, I don't even need to think about it anymore.
Yeah, it's a natural instinct.
Natural movement. It's all muscle memory at that point, right?
Yeah.
So when they come down and her thumb's down, put her hands, and I'm feeling the pressure, I've seen it. I've felt it in my own mind. As far as I'm concerned, I've been there 1,000 times already. It's just a matter of letting it happen naturally at that point, right? So
the next question we got in, mate, and I got a couple of people ask the same thing. They said, look, in the last show, Matt spoke a great deal about who he wanted to pull again. 3 names came up consistently there. Jerry Carteret, and most notably, Todd Hutchins and Devon Larratt. And the question was, who would you like to pull most between Todd and Devon Larratt, and how would you pull them differently to how you did last time? Is that something you can tell these guys?
Well, I don't know if they end up watching this, right?
They'll be drilling the shit out.
You're not going to go into a chess match telling them where you're going to be putting your pawns and how you're going to be setting up your queens, because then they can counter the fuck out of it, right? So I've got definitely have a few things. The biggest thing I still feel that I struggled with Todd was my mental game. That's something I've been working on tremendously the last year, just everything that I've been dealing with, trying to go through. So my mental game, no matter I feel what situation I'm coming into, is I'm more mentally prepared just in myself, not so much what my opponent or anybody else is doing, just in myself and how I can handle it. And that's where I feel I want that one back, because I didn't feel I was mentally there as I should have been.
Yeah.
Devon's a different creature, right?
And I just want to build on the Todd thing. And this is no disrespect to Todd at all, because I love Hutchins. He's an awesome arm wrestler, and I know you feel the same, Matt. But I know what was going on in your life at that time, and I do know that you've got more than a little justification to, at least in yourself, feel like the best of Matt Mask wasn't at that show. And I know that to be the case. So it is an interesting prospect, without a shadow of a doubt, mate. And I think also it's fair to say for you that the mental aspect is massive, because you're such a fueled, excited arm wrestler. So if you go there and you're revved and all guns are blazing, I think you're an A version of yourself. And if you go there and you've not got that, you're not feeling it, you're probably more like a C version of yourself from what I've seen. I think you're very in touch with that. And that's probably how you feel yourself, mate, from what you've just said there.
I personally think that's with anybody. If something's going on personal in anybody's life, to perform at 100% all the time, no matter what's going on in the background, it takes a certain individual to be able to do that. And there's certain people that can do that, like because of the amount of years of training for mental strength or whatever it is that they've been through, and they've dealt through it, they know how to deal with things, then that's huge. And I believe that defines somebody's character way more than just showing up and just being good that one day. Mm-hmm. You can consistently do it over and over and over again, or even if you can't succeed, but your mental is always there and strive. As far as I'm concerned, those people, I admire all those people, because it's hard to be able to keep that mental focus when you could have other things going on in your life, right? Sure. So, but yeah, like as for Hutchins, he showed up. Hats off to him. It was his day, and I don't want to take anything away from it, right? So I just feel that it's one I would like to have back. I'd like to see how it would turn out with the mental game I have now for myself. So I'd like to test it out. Yeah. It's obviously it's a loss. I want it back, right? So, and somebody like Devon. Now, Devon, that dude's just mentally strong. All the time, no matter what's going on, he's mentally strong because of his military training and everything else he's had. I don't think it matters what's going on in his personal life. He can show up 100% ready to bang with anybody on any given day of the year. So
he's got that disconnect.
He's got that complete mental strength where everything else he can just tune it out and 100% focuses on what he's doing on his task at hand, right? So
And that's a rare. Do you find that you feel less comfortable on the setups with someone like Devon because he knows you so well, and because you're so mirrored physically? I mean, he's almost the same bloody dude. So in terms of your physicality, arm length, hand size, things like that, he's very similar in a lot of ways. Are far more similar than a lot of other opponents in that class.
I actually feel comfortable when I grip up with Devon.
Yep.
So it's just he's got so many different tools. Like I can tell you, oh, this is what I'm going to do to beat Devon, but that's only going to work once. Because you need to be able to be switching it up, almost having an idea exactly what he's going to be doing on the next match. Yep. Because if you do the same thing 2 or 3 times in a row, then he's going to end up having you beat. He's going to figure it out. Because as soon as he realizes the path of the map that you're taking to get there, he's going to take a different route. So, and because he is versatile, some areas aren't as strong as others, but he is world top level at pretty much every area on the table.
Yeah.
He can hook with some of the best. He can top row with some of the best. He can press with some of the best. He can do his new Queen's move thing that he's doing all the time now with some of the best. Like he can do it all. So in order to say, oh, this is what I have to do and then I'll be able to beat him, it's not. It's for Devon, it's a constant adjustment.
Yeah, evolution on the day.
First match, I think he's going to do this, so I'll do this. I'll get that match on, but then he's going to adjust a bit. So now I got to come in with a different little bit of a game plan for match number 2, and match number 3 has to be different than what match 1 and 2 are going to be. Because if you continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, he's just going to pick it apart. You got to be able to have different angles and different things that you're going to be doing in the setup that's going to be throwing him off just to slightly tweak it a little bit into your advantage, right?
Yep.
So.
Now, another question that came up a lot, mate, I don't know whether you saw on social media, but perhaps you did, perhaps you didn't, but there was a lot of comments recently about the world's best top rollers. Now, let's focus on the heavyweight division for a moment. Your name came up in there a great deal. As a purist top roller and a guy that's obviously got that dialed in a great deal. Now, who do you believe? The question was, who are Matt's top 5 heavyweight top rollers right now? And the second part of the question, of all time in the heavyweight division. Who are your favourite top rollers? Who do you rate the highest?
Right now, I rate the highest. I would say Vitaly is probably the best top roller to date right now in the super heavyweight division. Just his long leverage, how he's able to use his hand, his explosiveness, everything else. He's a total package for a top roller, I believe, right now. Obviously, Pushkart was in there too. God rest his soul. But he, in my eyes, is still probably one of the greatest top rollers there ever was. But one that sticks out to me by far for the best top roller of all time to ever compete in the super heavyweight division is John Brzenk. Like my whole top roll, my drive to be able to do what I do in a top roll, all generated from how John was able to take people from a deep hook position and just peel them out.
Yep.
Like his crispness, his agility, the ability that he's able to do to bend people's wrists back in a negative position. For me, that was the ultimate glory to be able to
fluid transitions, didn't he? A really, really fluid, smooth transitional puller. Could move position to position as well as anyone. Really awesome. It was. Yeah. What about Gary Goodridge, mate? You ever seen much of Gary? Were you conscious of or aware of Gary Goodridge? Because he had a tremendous amount of back pressure.
Yeah, I've watched some of his matches. Tremendous back pressure. But a lot of the matches that I seen was when he was competing against. Yeah, he was hooking or he was even flop wrist pressing.
Yeah, sure. He could do it all, like Johnny. He had it all.
In behind, right? Yeah. So I would say he's more versatile, but like for through and through, like the most dominant matches where you've seen John win he's taking people's hands back. And he's literally just controlling them up top, controlling their hand, and everything else is following after that, right? So
let me throw a fantasy match your way, mate, okay? And there's a few of these, but the one that I've got in my mind that I would have loved to put together, you now, and this guy at his peak. What about Ivakin Taras Ivakin, Ukrainian. Top roller through and through, mate. And I think that you and him would have been, particularly the version of you in year before last when your head was together and when you were really on a tear. I would have loved to see you pull Taras Ivakin. How do you feel about that? Do you know a lot about him?
Yeah, I used to watch him actually quite a bit. Watched his matches with John, with Devon, all of them guys. He was like, at the time, they were saying he was the best top roller in the world, right? And he's got a lot more shorter arm, I believe, but he's got a lot more of a posting style top roll and kind of coming this way as opposed to straight back and peeling the wrist, right? So, but yeah, I would have loved to have competed against him. Like his style is almost very similar to Gasparini's now. Like how Gasparini pulls and the angle and the post that he's doing driving up through that index knuckle is very similar. I would think pulling him would feel very similar to what it would be pulling Gasparini.
It's funny, that segues nicely into our next question then, mate, because that relates to Hermes Gasparini. And how you felt that match went, how do you rate Hermes as a puller, and also how did you feel about some of the comments and the way that it went after the match? Just want to comment on that a little bit. Walk us through the whole encounter with Hermes Gasparini in the WAL.
As a puller, I think he's phenomenal. He is one of the best. He got outplayed. As a person or a man or as an individual, I honestly believe he's a coward, as far as I'm concerned. Anybody that loses, when he lost that match, he got outsmarted. He absolutely had the power. He probably didn't have the power that he has now or he had before. And he was coming in thinking that he was just going to power through me. He didn't follow the rules. He didn't study the game. He didn't practice the setup. He thought he was going to be able to go in and just completely dominate. And it fucked him because he didn't come in as prepared as what he should have done. And what I had done to him is what he was trying to pretty much do to me. I just cock blocked him from getting where he wanted to be initially from the beginning. And especially with WL setup, because you are allowed to load a little more, there is a little more forgiven, you can manipulate what you want to happen before the go even starts. And he didn't have a fucking clue what the hell was going on, and he wasn't able to adjust for it. He just kept trying to do the same thing and just kept trying to do it harder and kept trying to do it faster. And the first match leading up to it, we're talking. Todd Hutchins was there. He was going to be competing against Jerry Carteret, and Todd comes up to me. He's like, did you see Gasparini? He's like, I haven't met him yet. He's like, oh, wow. He's like, wait till you feel his hand. I'm like, oh, is it big? He's like, I have never felt a hand that felt so weak in my life. How is he a top roller? And I don't know if it was part of his game where he figured he'd come in and he'd just kind of limp noodle, shake everybody's hand. But when I first shook his hand, I literally felt like, oh my God, this guy doesn't stand a chance. Like you can, a lot of times you can just tell what somebody has just by the feel of their hand when you shake their hand. And it's almost like I was shaking the hand with a limp fish or a 12-year-old girl. Like it just felt completely weak. It felt small. It felt like there was no strength to it whatsoever in his wrists. And I'm like, oh, like this is going to be a joke. So I went in the first match completely over freaking confident, thinking that he was going to hit, he was going to do whatever he wanted to do, and I was just going to completely own his hand. We slipped out, we went into the straps. As soon as it said thumbs down and close your hands, a little bit of reality hit me, and it was like, oh shit, this guy's actually the real deal, right? Yeah. It must have been just a ploy or whatever he was doing when he was shaking everybody's hand. Or maybe that's just how they shake hands in Italy. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
did you feel the connection in that first round through his hand, or was it mostly? I noticed you mentioned you were in the straps there. Did you feel the connection through his hand or off his wrist? Was it just an arm motion and the back pressure, or did you?
It was
he
more everything. Everything was completely connected.
Okay, so he was really joined
connected. Up. He just felt, he was really joined up, and I didn't think it was going to be as connected as it was. And as soon as it said thumbs down, close your hands, I was like, oh shit. Like, shit, he's actually a lot stronger than what I think he's going to be. I went to kind of make a little bit of an adjustment. By then it was too late. Yeah. It was game over. So then it was like, okay, well, we're going to have to do this again. And I obviously needed to disconnect him a little bit from everything being in his power. So that's what I did. I just took his connective tissues, as you can call it or whatever, and I just kind of put a little bit of a flaw in one area of it. And I concentrated on all my energy, concentrating on buckling his wrist. So when he went and the more he drove, the more he took his own wrist. I didn't even really
were you reversing off him a bit, mate, or just keeping more vertical?
Just a tad, right? I wasn't working his hand. The first match I was thinking about working his hand, and it was the second match when we got into it I started to work the strap as opposed to work his hand. Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to bother working his hand because everything's so connected, it's too hard to control. So I used the strap in my advantage to slightly disconnect his hand from everything else.
Yep.
And you can even see the frustration on his face. He couldn't figure out what the hell I was doing and why it was happening to him and how I was able to take his wrist. But I knew what I was doing the whole freaking time. Yep. And it kept working, so I just kept doing it, you know. So, and then afterwards,
sorry, go on.
So when it was done, it was afterwards. Like, I felt kind of bad just because of how I am. I don't really control my emotions. I just let them flow. And I had a little talk with them.
I remember that. Yeah. So I think you said to him, "You can play that game." Or something.
I think you're fucking awesome, man. Awesome job. I think you're fucking great. Blah blah blah. Like, and I had nothing but respect for him. We went to the back room. I felt a little like I almost kind of not bullied him, but just kind of made him look bad or whatever, right? Just because them Europeans have a name way above us North Americans, right? And he was to come down here thinking that everybody thinking he had the best top roll, one of the best hands and everything in the world, especially with what he had done to Michael Todd previously. And I demoralized him. Like, I pretty much took all of that and threw it out the fucking window and said that, no, obviously it ain't true about him, right? So I felt kind of bad. We went into the back room. He's like, oh, hey, can I feel you? And anybody that has ever trained with me on a side table, on a practice table, even on my club, I don't care about position when there's nothing on the line. I don't care about early starts. I don't care about somebody getting a little more. To me, it means nothing. And that's what I thought it was. I figured, like, I gripped up with him. I just wanted to see how he actually felt, and he was strong. He's strong as shit. And especially if you're not in 100% position you want to be in, he's going to play with you all day long. And that's what he started to do to me. He started to take my hand. I was like, oh, wow, you feel strong. And it was making him feel good about coming all that way and me demoralizing the fuck out of him. And it was like, oh, wow, oh, you feel so strong. Oh, wow, is that ever strong? And I had no clue the whole time that his little pocket pal he had with him was videotaping it, right? And the whole time he's videotaping it, and I was like, afterwards, I seen him with the phone. I was like, oh, he was just taking some pictures. I had no idea what his intentions of doing, what he planned on doing with that video. And instantly he posted a video of him beating me on a practice table on the side when to me it means nothing. My adrenaline level, like on a regular day when I'm calm, I'm strong, but I'm not a freak. You get my mental game involved. You get my adrenaline going. You got my heart rate up. I'm a fucking freak of fucking nature.
Mm-hmm.
I can do retarded fucking things when I get into that mental state. Stuff that blows me away that I didn't even think I was capable of doing, where I can get my strength up such to a level that I'll literally start blowing my fucking body apart with the strength that I'm able to generate.
You have definitely done that, mate.
I've done it in the past, like a few times.
A number of times, yeah. Like, you had a season where it was like par for the course. Every time you went out, you ripped something off.
Every time.
Literally every goddamn match.
Yeah, they were having pools to see what was going to break next, right? Yeah. Yeah,
freaking dislocating your goddamn fingers
without any injury, right?
Take a pick and come up with your finger facing the opposite way, and you go, oh shit! Plug it back in and carry on.
Yeah. So it's like for him to be able to do that, any top level arm wrestler in the world on a practice table can do that to me. But if all of a sudden I add in my adrenaline, I add in my mental game, and I add in my focus, it's a completely different person that you're going to be arm wrestling. And I went at him as a friendly person, just wanted to see how he felt, and he took that as I was so much stronger than him, I was this, and he used that video as a way to justify that he lost and that he was way better than me and that he got cheated and everything else. And that's where I look at him as a person and as a man, and I think you're not. You know, you're a person, but you're no fucking man. You're still a child. Because that's what children do. You know what I mean? Children, if they take a loss, even though they got beat because they didn't come in more prepared, they're going to put blame on other why they didn't get what happened to them. And so yeah, I think he has a lot of maturing to do. I'm sure maybe he's 20, when he's 30, he may mature more. But right now, he's still like a 12-year-old fucking boy. The mentality of a 12-year-old boy on how to handle and how to deal with a loss. Like most people, they take a loss, they learn from it. What did I do wrong? How did I do it? Oh, I should be able to beat him. It's not, I can't beat him, I'm better than him, but he out-cheated me. It's no, you fucking lost. You didn't come in prepared. You needed to learn something. Go home, learn it, implement the fuck out of it, come back and prove him wrong next time. You know?
How do you think Hermes would match up when he gets his next outing in the World Arm Wrestling League? I mean, let's talk about him versus someone like Marcio, because originally he was going to be pulling Marcio, wasn't he? And you actually took that match on a late replacement.
Yeah. So I think he's going to come in a lot more prepared. If he comes in with the same kind of mentality, well, then he's really a fucking fool. You know what I mean? But I think I would say he probably went home for the next 6 months. I know I would have. And I would have went home and I would have studied the rules. I would have studied the setup, and I would have had people there giving me, going through the motions, realizing what kind of an advantage or how I can work it in my favor to get what I need from the beginning before the match even starts. So it was nothing to do with Bart. It was nothing to do with me. He screwed himself because he didn't come in prepared. Had he had come in more prepared, he possibly could have fucking beaten me that day. I really don't think so. But he would have had a way better chance, and it would have been way more of a show had he had been able to show up more prepared and not come in as this cocky little kid that thought he was just going to own it because of who he is. It's a completely different game. Like it's like taking someone, Taekwondo, and putting him in a pair of fucking jeans and a wife beater, sticking him on the street, and having him go toe-to-toe with a street fighter. It's a completely different fucking game altogether. It's no holds barred arm wrestling is what the WL setup is. And for me, I love it. I think it's awesome because it allows you to have so many more tools that you can use to your advantage. And it's like you can pick up a fucking bottle and smash somebody over the fucking head with it. You know, so you have all these different tools that you can use, and it opens up your horizon so much more for what you can throw at your opponent. So So as far as I'm concerned, like, and he's bugging people. Oh, you gotta give me a match with him. I want a match with him back. I want a match with him back. And oh, you come to Italy and we'll have a match and we'll do it my way, my rules, blah blah. I honestly, just by how he acted after the match, had he been more man, took it on the chin, put his head up, and like, yeah, he beat me. I came in not prepared. I should have done more research on stuff. I feel I can beat him, but I didn't come in prepared as much as I should have done, and next time I'm going to do more. But instead, he took a chicken shit away around it. I'm like, no, I honestly don't want to fucking pull him. I could care less. And I honestly think if I was to pull him again, I'd do the same fucking thing to him, because I don't think he's quite figured it out yet, what I've done to him. But I just don't even want to give him the opportunity. I want him to walk around for the next 15, 20 years knowing the last time we pulled each other, he got his ass handed to me and looked like a fucking fool because of it, just by how he acted afterwards. I never wanted to let him get it back. I never wanted to give him that opportunity. Had he have been more mad about it, I would have been like, hey, yeah, 6 months from now, we can do it again. Let's try again in 6 months and we'll see what happens. But the way that he went about it afterwards, I don't know. For me, that doesn't sit well. For some people, it may be okay. For me, that's how I am. Every time I feel I've taken a loss, I've never blamed it on referees. I've never blamed it on the opponent fucking me. I've never blamed it on anything else. I had a cold, or, you know, the AC was on in the room or anything like that. I fucked up. Where did I fuck up? Okay, well, with my Hutchins ones, I feel like it was mental. I've worked on my mental game since then. Hutchins was a better arm wrestler that day. My mental game was off. I needed to do a lot of work. The next time when I lost to Devon, it was, you know, some people say, oh, well, you got screwed. Well, maybe I did, but I should have played more of the fucking game. I should have came in and pissed around a little more with him, not let him get what he needed to get from the beginning and instantly stop it or point out what was going on. Right? With Jerry, it was 100% my fault on why I lost, you know. So, and it was the angles that I went at it, and I wasn't quite prepared for what I needed to do. I didn't have it quite figured out and tuned in on what angles I needed to work through first before I drove into something, and I lost. That was my fault.
To be fair, the Devon ones are blood. The Jerry ones. I mean, the Devon ones are a certain set of circumstances. The Todd one, you can say that's a little more difficult because he's a very unusual arm wrestler as well. But there's no doubt about it. Jerry, that's a really difficult guy to train for because there's very he is. And who the hell else plays him?
Until you grab onto him and you actually feel him, you haven't got a clue what to do. So it's like you can practice with
weird style,
as many flopperous presses as you want, but until you grab on and you hang and bang with Jerry Carteret, you don't know exactly what to do. And it took me a while to try to kind of figure it out on what I needed to do and what angles I need to work on. And I had to figure it out on round number 3. Match number 4, round number 3, I figured out all the ingredients and the recipe. Match number 4, I forgot half the ingredients and started throwing in the sugar when I should have been adding the butter. You know what I mean? So it's something that I wasn't prepared for because I didn't go through my techniques on what I needed to accomplish first before I went to the next step. I was trying to go to the next step before I had even finished accomplishing what I needed to on the first step.
Sure.
So it's all trial and error. The first couple times I pulled Chris Chandler, he beat me. You know, like he made me look like a fool the first couple times. I did more homework. I did more research. I didn't get that much stronger. I just changed a couple little different things about my setup and the angle that I was attacking him. He hasn't beat me in years. Like the last 8 times we've pulled, he has not been able to beat me because I fine-tuned myself to adapt to what he was giving me, right?
Travis Pagent spoke to us a lot about the issues he faced in trying to get through the whole Jerry Carteret puzzle. And then we saw he managed to do it very successfully at the finals in 2016. But while we're on that, I wanted to ask you about Travis as well. Travis is a guy you've never arm wrestled, as far as I'm aware.
I haven't even gripped up with the guy. We've been to so many different events and like promotion things and everything together, and he won't even grip up with me.
How do you feel about a go, mate? Is that a match you'd like, Travis? Because with him being such a fast top roller as well, do you feel like you match up well with him, or is it a difficult match for you? How do you sort of see that?
I think it'd be a more frustrating match than anything.
Mm.
Not so much because Travis, just like Devon, is a player. He's a manipulator. He's to work the advantage for his angle. If he's not 100% comfortable or feel he's got the advantage that he needs, he's going to keep playing games until he has it. And until he gets that spot he wants, he's going to be fucking around, and all of a sudden, as soon as it feels good, you think he's still messing around, then bang, it's on.
Yeah.
Right? So for Travis, it's a different, you can't play his game, right? You need to not listen to what he's saying, not listen so much to the ref, and just keep focused on yourself. Because if you focus on anything but yourself, he's going to pull you so off your game that you're not even going to realize what's going on. So, and the rest won't even realize what's going on because he's got it so, he's talking while he's at the table, he's moving around, of course it's a match I'd like to have. I'd love to be able to pull Travis just because he's Travis Pageant, right? Like, I want to be able to pull the best of the best and be able to have an opportunity to be able to see what I can do against them. But for me, I feel out of everybody, if I was to ever pull, I would probably be the most frustrated if I was to pull Travis, just by how he is, right? And how he plays the mental game and the mind game and everything else. It's hard to stay focused on yourself, right?
So you think in that kind of scenario, you'd probably draw on some of the experience that some of your friends have got, like Devon, who's pulled Travis a tremendous amount. He's had a lot of experience down that route. Is that the kind of thing you would employ, mate? Would you you talked about the prepping yourself, getting ready for the scenarios, things like that. Would you invest a bit of time in trying to work a few angles back, mental games and so on? Or are you not going for that?
100%. Yeah, I wouldn't be throwing the mental games his way, but I'd be doing different angles and everything else that I feel is going to work for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting feedback. Ladies and gentlemen, we're 47 minutes in, and that brings us to the end of this episode with Matt, the Wild Horse Mask. But we ain't done with Matt yet. This is only episode number 3 with more to come. Ladies and gents, remember, put your questions in the comments. Let us know what you want us to speak to this lad about, and we will do just that. We've heard him answer some of your questions today. On the next episode, we'll get into some more. I want to say a massive thanks to Matt for joining us, mate. Thank you for taking the time out. Much appreciated from your working day. And we will have more from the Wild Horse very soon. Remember, ladies and gents, if this is your first time here on the Supernatural Strength channel, please make sure that you let everybody know about it. Like, share, subscribe, hit that bell, mother fluffers. And until we see you next time, take it easy, peeps.